Hello and welcome to some more Star Citizen today with a Squadron 42 report for May-June 2019, going over what Cloud Imperium have been working on in regards to Squadron 42 Episode 1, what progress they've made over the last few weeks, and what they're focused on now. Squadron 42's roadmap is made up of a selection of features that need to be completed, as well as chapters, which is sort of the putting together of features, cinematics and gameplay all together to make a playable section of the game. There are 28 chapters planned for Episode 1. These may be made up of multiple scenes as well. Chapter 21 was recently completed to its white box playable stage. Each chapter has 5 main phases before being considered complete. In order, that's white box playable, grey box, production, and then polish. And then basically it's complete. Squadron 42 Episode 1 is currently roadmapped to be in beta for the end of Q2 2020, which assumedly means it's feature complete and is relatively well polished and getting ready to be released. Obviously it might need some balance and might need some tweaks, but beta is mainly feature complete, and then they're sort of like onto the polishing phase. Though recently, Ship 3D Pathfinding V2, which is the basic technology for AI spaceships to efficiently navigate through space using physics grids, has seen delays to its completion and pushed it back to Q3 of this year from Q2. And it's quite possible that we could see more delays to features and chapters, causing delays to that beta date, which is the effectively end of June 2020 is when they'd like to have it in beta by. Let's look at some more detail of exactly what the various teams and studios have been working on, starting with character, NPC, and animation type work. They worked on the new player jumping system. The animations are now much more fluid and incorporating jumping forwards, backwards, sideways, and running and jumping. These are also apparently glitch free. They've also finished setting up usables, so beds, seats, consoles, etc., and are starting to create a pre-visual system for different human AI enemy types and weapon sets. So this is going to have AI NPCs using various usable items around the verse and set pieces. AI cover got some work, so immediate exits from cover while they're sort of like being shot at and under duress. Saw some work. More female animations are currently in development and will now always be worked on parallel to the male versions of animations. Currently they're starting with base retargets from the male source and then replacing them with female specific assets. They've been working on a few new weapons and weapon attachments, as well as the melee and takedown animations and sort of like mechanics there. They've continued polishing for characters with a focus on Chapter 4, as well as continuing to explore the aliens of Squadron 42. We know that there's going to be the Vandal, but there could potentially be Banu, Xi'an, Tararan, and Kurthak, and they are all in the universe too, and we're not sure if they're going to appear in Episode 1 or not. They worked on the material library, which will affect all armors and outfits in the game and enable the team to further drive visual quality. Similarly, tools for the hair pipeline are being built and tested to help artists author higher quality and more complex hair. Headlook was improved to prevent geometry, items, bodies, and helmets clipping into the player's view. Movement may be restricted by pose and by what you're carrying. Melee takedowns now use the inverse kinematics IK system to ensure they appear correct if the victim is on a different level of the player, such as a slope or a step. They also started the first pass of punching and knife attacks for melee combat, again using IK to hit specific areas of the target. AI implemented Chara Routing for the usable feature, which allows functionality to be routed from one usable to another. For example, a bartender can deliver a drink to a patron while they're standing, sitting in a chair, or sitting in a chair at a table. They also implemented area slotting, which allows a usable interaction to be triggered when players enter an area, rather than having to move to a very specific point. Tech Art implemented a version 2 of their internal face customizer. This allows for much more sort of like variety of blending heads, head IDs. They can have much better randomization of heads when they're creating NPCs. They can make very, very unique looking NPCs. They don't have to be symmetrical faces either. They've exposed a load of new additional functionality for the artists to use there. And Tech Animation have continued to optimize the animation pipelines in general. Let's take a closer look at environment and cinematics progress. They've been working hard on incorporating all of the story scenes, cinematics, and lines for Redacted, which I'm assuming is the new Squadron 42 vertical slice for the first third of the game that they sort of like have been working on recently and now have gone reasonably quiet about it. Something that we might see at CitizenCon or something like that. Gameplay story implemented a record 18 scenes to a high standard, including one on the Bridge of an Idris. Cinematics worked with level design to prioritize implementation passes for all remaining scenes and chapters. An implementation pass refers to the process of making a scene function as it will do in the final release, and includes AI characters moving in and out of locations. They've been improving their transition to cinematic scene tech. When complete, that will enable the team to sort of like add locomotion-based intros and outros. This means characters will more smoothly enter and exit scenes, so that will remove the sudden jar as NPCs might try to rush into position, as seen in like modern games. They have made a solid start on the bridge crew behaviors now that the usables pipeline is operating at full capacity. This will enable the crew to realistically interact with various props, items, and other NPCs in a fully systemic way, and they have been working out ways for NPCs to interact with each other and usables from varying distances. The landing and takeoff module needed for many of the chapters received some focus. The outer Odin levels, so Odin's obviously the system where we saw the coil and that sort of stuff, they were put into correct object containers and can now be traveled to in-game. They have been developing the Javelin skybox, which involves working through the entire ship exterior and dissecting parts they can effectively use for the push and pull mechanic. Work on the organic shaders is nearing completion, and they can start iterating on asteroid sets, initially focusing on the standard space potatoes before progressing to more technically challenging shard-like objects needed for the latter half of the campaign. Significant effort was put into traversable areas around the massive Archon station. They are keen to avoid the standard corridor-room approach and fully open out the station to highlight its sheer scale. Once these areas are further developed, a dynamic pass will take place to give each corner life and movement using the lessons learned from their investigations earlier in the year. Logos and signs were also used to create and make the levels there sort of like have a more industrial feel, while background screens for machinery in the bridge are also sort of like there subtly to give the area much more sort of like branding, I suppose, but it's important graphically as well. Work has gone into key comm arrays seen in the campaign. The undisclosed array manufacturer has its own unique style that mixes retro designs and plenty of real-world references that grounds the entire station in reality. Volumetric skybox work continues around the coil, with one mission in particular receiving a lot of attention. It merges the new wind mechanics with the new flight model, and though still early days, is giving the team a thorough understanding of how best to create space locations with the speed and scale of the campaign ships. They continued investigating new shaders, including tests for water and raindrops accumulating on the ship's canopies. They made various improvements to their particle system and distortion systems, and smoke and dust effects in the distance. They continued working on the new gas cloud tech mentioned last month, this time looking at the ways the toolset can be used in non-gas cloud locations, such as asteroid fields. The way they sort of like use this sort of tech around the verse and reuse it is obviously quite important. Improvements have been made to the third-person camera, giving options to link motion to the cadence of footsteps to give a more dynamic view. They also created the ability to change video rendered to a texture that simulates changing TV channels. They completed final touches on gas clouds, various optimizations, and integrated the volumetric shadow into the fog system, and this also fixed a handful of bugs. Squadron 42 will benefit from ongoing developments to the central flight HUD as well. They are redoing a load of the HUDs and UIs in the game, and they're obviously improving them significantly, pushing them towards what they want for the final version of both Star Citizen and Squadron 42. This includes indicators for velocity, G-force, afterburner, ESP, and some new mechanics such as thruster strength limiter and radar altimeter. Players can get a sneak peek when the Alpha 3.6 launches in the Persistent universe, as the HUD is going to be tested with the Aegis Gladius. So, Squadron 42 Episode 1 looks like it's making pretty good progress. I'm interested to know what they're going to show for it this year, if anything, at CitizenCon or even later on in the year. It hopefully will be something pretty cool. If they can keep reasonably close to having their beta by next year. Even if it gets pushed back by a quarter or two, then it's possible we could see the game Squadron 42 Episode 1 released next year, and that would be fantastic. But what do you think? Do you have any questions about what we talked about in this video, or about Squadron 42 in general? Do you think it's possible that we will see a release of Squadron 42 Episode 1 in 2020? Or is that over-optimistic? Whatever your thoughts, I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. Every month we have a ship giveaway. For June, we have an Origin 890 Jump, the massive luxury ship that should also be flyable with Alpha 3.6 at the end of the month. That is a huge sort of like capital luxury ship. It's been donated by Odyssey Interstellar, a friendly industrial expansionist organization in Star Citizen that focus on mining, trading, industry, exploration, research, and infrastructure. In short, commerce is their goal. They run regular weekly events in-game now. Please check them out if you are looking for an org to join. Links down below. There are a couple of services I shield for as well that you might find useful. If you're looking for a VPN, then check out NordVPN. I use it for security, privacy, and more. It has massive advantages over free VPNs. And if you use the code BoredGamer, you get up to 75% off your subscription. Boom! Also, there is Shadow Cloud Gaming. This is an alternative to having your own or upgrading your gaming rig on PC. It leverages the power of the internet and your own Shadow server that emulates a high-spec Windows 10 PC, so you can play up to 144Hz 4K anywhere with an old PC, laptop, smartphone, or even tablet. Freedom to play anywhere. The internet is good enough anyway, and it works really well with Star Citizen and all the games that I play, and is constantly updated and even improved with new hardware. Again, use the code BoredGamer for discount. Links below to all of that jazz. Thank you to all that support the channel through Patreon, the YouTube join button, donations, subscribe star, as well as anyone that just generally subscribes, likes, comments, and shares my content. Dings that bell, ding ding. If you feel so inclined, you can find links to all of that down below. A special thank you though to my VIP producers this month: Dalamars, Catastrus, Raz, Gear Khan, General Aventador, Robert Johnson, and Andy Green, who have given well beyond the norm in support for the channel. I know a load of other people have, but I can't name them all. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the verse.